Hello, I'm Jenna. Today I decided I was going to do a solo play RPG called 1000 Year Old Vampire. That RPG is on purpose designed to be a solo play. It does have some variety to it for two players, but the main purpose of it is to be solo. So it's kind of a do-yourself, kind of follow along props. So and you go through the vampire's life. So I'm going to start with some basic rules, the mechanics, and then I'll make my vampire for this vlog. And then in an upcoming series, I will actually go through some of the prompts and see exactly where that leads my vampire throughout their life, which should be interesting. So this game has 5 main things, which are called traits. First is memories, skills, resources, characters, and marks. So those are the 5 things that we're going to start with, and we'll start with memories. Really, the point is to have specific experiences, and we'll write those throughout the game. Experiences depend on your prompts, and typically there's a specific event. It doesn't have to be just one moment that the event happens. Event can last for 100 years. So there's a range. What's important is at that event you have an experience, and then the memory is an arc of the experience. So you'll have 3 experiences that become one memory. So that means that the vampire can only remember 5 memories. So you're going to have 3 experiences each. So 15 experiences is going to make up the 5 memories. And again, that's the max that the vampire can remember. If we hit that max, then at that point you're going to have to delete one of the other memories to then replace it. So kind of makes sense. The vampire lived a really long time, so just naturally you're going to forget things over time that happened in their past life. The one exception that you can kind of get around that is you are able to create one diary. And in that diary, you can store up to 3 memories. Now, that means that those memories stay in the diary. The vampire doesn't remember them when they're just out and about. They'd have to actually review the diary. And whatever that says, that means that it's true. The vampire has no way to modify. Once it's put in there, then that is it. That is the memory. So there's no editing. You can't add anything else to it. The memory is there. And then you have skills. Really, there's just a variety of actions that the vampire can do. And we'll add more as we go through with the prompts and follow what they say. And when the prompts say you have to check a skill, that means that the vampire uses that skill. Before, it might say what the vampire is capable of doing. So once you find a skill, you check it off, and then after that skill is checked, you cannot use that again. So once it's checked, it is done. One-time use. So you're going to need to be really careful and manage that, because sometimes you might check a lot off and then you have 1 or 2 left and a prompt says, oh, you need this skill. Well, I don't like this. You might have to kill someone or do something that doesn't really fit that time. So you might not be able to do what you want, but that's the vampire's instinct. They have to follow that. So again, you have to really manage your skills and be careful where you use them. And then there's resources. Resources are pretty broad. It can pretty much be anything that the vampire has, or it could be something big like a castle, a home, property, a statue, for example. There's a whole variety of things you could do. And the prompts will define that. If it says a specific stationary resource, that means it's something bigger that you can't carry by yourself. So that'd be like a castle or whatever. So something very large. So that's stationary, meaning can't move it. And it's not that you only have a list and that's all you have. You have what's called mechanics. So you might have a prompt that says use a resource and you're able to use that. But if it doesn't say anything specific, then you can just assume the vampire has access to whatever would make sense in that time frame and within what their life looks like at that point, what makes sense. So you don't have to have very specifics on like a list. You can have, unique things just depending on what the prompt says that you need to use. So just kind of follow that. And now for characters, it's kind of like an NPC. So people that the vampire interacts with and has relationships with. That could be a family member from when they were a human, so before they became a vampire, or it could be during when they were a vampire and they happen to meet certain people. And those characters can be either mortals, aka humans, or non-mortals. And again, you're just going to follow the prompts if it says mortals or if it says immortal. Or it could say nothing, and in that sense, you're flexible on what you can do, and it'll add as you go along. If it's immortal, that means you have to judge yourself. If time's getting, let's say, you're skipping 100, 200 years later, then you have to assume that some of those people have died because they're humans and just, normal age, you check them off the list as they would pass. Sometimes the prompt will say you have to kill or you have to use a specific skill that has a negative impact. And so then again, you're going to have to add and modify depending on what the prompts say and thinking of a realistic timeline. Also, the prompts might have a specific situation where you have to interact with a character, but they're not on your list and it doesn't make sense for that. And at that time, you can feel free to make a new character. Again, it just kind of depends. Use your decision-making skills and you can come up with something else. So again, it's pretty flexible. Now, for the marks, the last one. As you're going along, you'll have specific physical traits that a vampire would have. And that can be a lot of different things. It could be, you walk with no shadow, or you have a permanent clawed hand, or it's covered, or maybe your eyes are really bright and you have to cover them with glasses or something like that. So there's a lot of different things that you can make up, but it has to be a visual mark that the vampire has to cover in some way and hide. So they're trying to pretend to be human when they're going out and about and interacting with other people. So now the exciting part. I'm going to create the vampire. And this process is pretty simple. Really, you just have to come up with someone from the past. And again, that can be pretty much any culture. It's up to you. But I'm very more prone to Irish and Celtic. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that time frame, that culture. And I'm thinking mine will be some sort of Celtic druid who was in way too far with magic and nature and became obsessed with the undead. So I think that's sort of the action, so related to magic rituals, and somehow caused themselves to become a vampire, an undead. And I think that's kind of the goal we want. They wanted to be immortal, but they didn't realize the consequences that came along. So I think that would be a really cool kind of power to have. So there are some consequences to that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use a name generator. So I'm using old Celtic names. I have a whole list, and I'm just going to go there and pick one. The first one I have is Ava McBridey. And apparently that first name means life, so I thought that was kind of ironic, being that this person is becoming an undead, so they're not alive, so the name kind of conflicts with their existence. Okay, the next step that we're going to do is we have to make up 3 characters from my character's human life. So before they became a vampire and someone that they have a close relationship to. And on purpose, you want them to be close, but understand they're not going to live for a long time because this is from the beginning of when they became a vampire. So I'm just going to make up 3 people. So the first one I'm going to do is Ernan McBridey. So that is the father and also the chair of our clan. Second is Konkar McBridey, which is a brother, and Bara Malloy, which is potential love interest for Ava. So again, this is very simple, just a very short explanation because later on we're going to give some more open space to add in more descriptions as we go through with the prompts. I don't want to put too many details in yet. I just want to put in a name and what their relationship is. Next, I'm going to come up with 3 skills that make sense for my character at that time. So what I'm going to pick is the skill of performing rituals, which makes sense because she's a druid. Second, making potions. And again, that's part of the druid, being able to make medicine, making different sorts of poisons as well, or ways to heal. And then third will be taming animals, because she has a close relationship with nature and with animals. Next are resources. So I'm going to think of just 3 simple resources, which are going to be medicinal herbs. Next is a ritual staff because it fits in with the skills. And third is an animal skull charm. So that is for protection. So she wears that around her neck. And the last thing I need to do for this is make up 3 more different experiences. Remember, each experience is part of a memory. So I'm going to have a total of 4 memories. And also another thing I need to do is combine at least 2 different traits that I came up with, characters and resources and skills. So I'm going to match those together and put those within the 3 experiences. So I just typed up and made up. The first one is going to be me helping and assisting my brother Konjar with taming a wolf. That's for hunting purposes. So I help to tame the wolf for hunting, to prepare and help him. The second is my father, again, is the chief, and so he gave me an animal skull charm, like I mentioned, and that's for my protection when I finally become a high druid. And the third experience is saving my love interest, Bara. So I save him from being extremely ill, high fever, and I make different medicinal herbs and heal him. So those are the 3 new experiences that I put in, separated into memories. So I'll have 4 memories with 1 experience each, and that's going to start my game. So I'm ready to start playing and get my story going, but that's going to be for the next vlog. So let me know what you think. Do you like the character that I came up with? What do you guys think? Okay, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, click like and remember to subscribe if you haven't. Or if you are on Facebook, go ahead and like my Facebook page and make sure you follow so you get notifications when I put out new videos. If you want to provide support in other ways, there's a few different options. First, you can take a look at my Patreon page. There you'll see different perks at different levels, and you can support me monthly or as a one-time thing. Also, you can buy me a coffee, again, which is one time. Just buy me a coffee at any amount that you would like. I always appreciate that.